All right, welcome back to the Run.down postgame show here on the Strickland YouTube channel, Strickland Twitter. If you're listening to this day after Strickland Podcast Network, I am Sam. Knicks lose the NBA Cup quarterfinal game to the Hawks 108 to 100. Lots to get into in this game as the Knicks, as inconsistent as they are, continue to be inconsistent in other ways tonight. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With a large section of odds on everything from football, the NBA, and college basketball, NHL to UFC, head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use promo code BLEAV, that's BLEAV, for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right, so Knicks, you were probably wondering what version of the Knicks were we going to see tonight. First half, you probably were like, all right, this is the version of the Knicks that maybe can get a win and move on to the semifinals of this NBA Cup. And that just seemed to not be the case. The Knicks absolutely got throttled on the glass. They got bothered by the Hawks' length. And yeah, I mean, this game just wasn't even close, especially on effort wise, I would say, in that second half. Um, but yeah, Shwen, you've joined me. Your initial thoughts on this loss?
I know everybody's going to focus on the rebounding and that shit. And I'm sure that, I didn't think Mikal played a particularly great game.
Shwen, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Weird. Not sure what. How about now? No? All right.
Still no. Well, Schwinn gets that figured out. I see a lot of people calling this the worst loss of the year. I mean, I guess Garrett, when you think of the circumstances, you guys can hear him. So is it something on my end? Am I not do I not have this fully? All right. Maybe it was me.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, yeah, look, the rebounding was frustrating. I think the Knicks, if you look at like the top 10 offensive rebounding teams in the league, a lot of those have given us problems. Atlanta now twice. Houston, Utah, another one. That game was a little bit weirder though. But yeah, these teams in general seem to get us from. I think very specifically teams with a bunch of athletic wings give us issues. That's a problem the Knicks have. I think that's a issue of depth and just general roster construction at this time. Precious is supposed to help us. I did not think he had a good game today, especially rebounding, and I just thought he was not really with it today. Maybe he's still working his way back. That could be part of it, but it wasn't great. But I thought the Knicks in the third quarter lost the game there, and I don't think that had much to do with rebounding. I thought that had to do with look, Mikal actually played good defense on Trey in the first half. The Knicks had a good defensive strategy on Trey in the first half. Atlanta clearly adjusted, and the Knicks did not counter. They kept playing the same strategy. They were playing deep drop. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to force Trey to score, which is fine. I mean, that's generally a good idea against Atlanta because he's been pretty efficient from the field. I mean, even today, he was 8 of 22 from the field for 22 points. So not exactly like he was burning up the Nets here. But Trey did a much better job of finding the roll man and actually looking to score. Versus in the first half, he had all these weird possessions, where he like jumped up,
jump passing.
Yeah, he wasn't reading defense. Something that Brunson could relate to tonight, and yeah, he adjusted, and the Knicks did not. Once you see Mikal is getting fried, and if you're gonna stick with Towns and you don't want to shooters or whatever, that's okay. But then when you have Deuce on the floor, then why the fuck don't you put Deuce on it? And instead, they were letting Mikal struggle against Trey without much adjustment, and then they had Deuce on Hunter, and Hunter was able to overpower him, which obviously makes sense. And so you were giving up two advantages to them, which were bizarre. And then on the offensive end, and this can fall on Brunson and Tibbs for all I care. I don't know. I felt like we were doing a tribute to the 2021 playoffs where we were just not attacking Trey at all. We weren't putting him into the action. We weren't
Yeah, real PTSD right there from like, and we have better offensive players than that team to actually take advantage of those.
So I just don't know what that was about. I thought it was a terrible job by Tibbs and Brunson offensively in that third quarter, and then defensively, the lack of adjustments was very, very infuriating. Of course, the rebounding was a huge problem, and that kind of allowed the Hawks to just kind of keep it, a 7, 8, 9, 10-point game in the fourth quarter, even when we got our shit together. But you have that, and then obviously the Knicks didn't make shots, but like, you can overcome missing threes if Brunson's playing well, or if Tibbs has made adjustments defensively and you're kind of able to keep them at bay. You did neither. And that cost you. And look, I don't know what the hell. I still think Brunson has these weird games where he's like still trying to like do distributor stuff. And then I'm like, which is fine. Like, it's good. Like, he's much better. He's obviously having his best passing season of his career. So it's not a bad thing. But like, there were two plays that come to mind in the second half. I think both were in the third quarter. Maybe the second one wasn't. The first was he got the ball in some kind of transition opportunity where Trey was the man guarding him. He's bringing the ball up the middle of the floor. I think Macau and maybe OG or Deuce were spreading the wings. So, the other guys had to like kind of at least honor them to some extent, even if they're sinking back to try and, but Brunson didn't even press the advantage. He just dribbled it back out, reset the offense, and then Precious comes, screens for him. He gets by Trey, and then he threw, I don't remember what he exactly did. It might've been a pass to, he tried to maybe dump it off the Precious. He had a kick out to Macau at the top of the key for a three. He might have had an angle to Deuce in the corner, or somebody who was in the corner. I don't remember exactly who it was, but he just didn't do anything on the play. He never looked like he was trying to score on the play. And we got nothing out of it. And that was weird. And then he had another possession where he got switched onto Okongwu. And to me, that's a matchup where you should be looking to score. You should not be going into that possession being like, okay, well, I'm just trying to get into the paint here and spray it out to somebody. He gets to the free throw line, does that little thing where he like dribbles across, jumps, and then tries to throw it to Deuce, but like Deuce is trying to rotate up to the top, like above the break. And instead he like throws it. I mean, it was an awkward pass. It goes out of bounds, and it's like, you have to look to score. And I understand that like Dyson Daniels is a really good defender, and sure, maybe there's stuff that you can do to get him off of Brunson or use him off the ball or whatever it is. It's fine, but Brunson has to be better, and he just did not look like he never looked aggressive in the third quarter to me. It looked very passive. Even just the way he started the third quarter. There was a possession, I think the first possession of the third quarter was like he dribbles it up very slowly. They get into the offense. Him and Towns run some token pick and roll action. He just kind of dribbles it out to the left, throws it back across to Towns, who's like 3 feet from behind the 3-point line with no advantage created. Then Brunson gets it back, and they switch it late on Capella. It's got like 5 seconds left. Instead of driving, he tries to take a step back over Capella. He doesn't make it. It's short. And it's like that. And at no point, I don't think they took a dribble in that entire possession inside the arc. Like, that's just bad offense. That's not good offense. And there was no purpose to that possession. And
it feels like a lot of possessions where like they kind of like got started late on the action in that game, in that third quarter especially.
Yeah, and it was just an annoying, like it was a very passive performance from him in a game where, look, in the first half you can kind of live with it. Towns is obviously playing great. Macau got off to a good start. Hart kind of found something towards the end of the first half, but at some point you're like, all right, we need like the best guy on the team to be the best guy on the team. Mm-hmm. And he didn't play like it at all. He just did not. Look, I understand Daniels is a really good defender, and maybe there's something to like the idea of the game plan was maybe they didn't want to just keep challenging Daniels over and over, which I get to some degree. But like at some point when
you got to find a way to get him going.
At some point when you can just see the offense they're not able to get anything, and you're giving up this run. You can feel Atlanta, right? You can feel them getting this head of steam. At some point, it's incumbent on you. Like, this to me isn't even about Tibbs. This is about Brunson. You're the best one on the team. At some point, it's on you to like feel that momentum and go back and take control of it. And like, obviously we've seen Brunson do it before, many times.
Last year.
Yeah, he's done it many times before in his Knicks career. So I'm not watching this and like, oh my God, like, holy shit, this is a huge long-term concern. But when it happens, you got to call it out, and that was the case today. Like again, Trae Young to me, he played well. Like I'm not criticizing him, but like he went 8 of 22 for 22 points. This was not exactly like some fucking heater he was on, and holy shit, how did we? Of course, nothing we did could contain him. Like you just
it was like DeAndre Hunter and Jalen Johnson and those guys. They were like really
killing the offensive glass, and it was just. It was look, it was just bad. Like and Trae, to his credit, like he kept attacking. The first half wasn't great for him. He came out in that third quarter super aggressive. He had 11 points like that to start the third quarter. And that really put the Knicks off tilt, and they couldn't get it back. And I just got to say, look, the Knicks didn't lose this game because of this, but it is worth mentioning. The officiating in the second half was a fucking joke. Like, I have no idea what that was. Deuce basically got like fucking, like, if that was like a Vontaze Burfict hit or something that was going on there. No call. That's like, it was like a grapple that was going on for about.
OG got punched in the nose.
Yeah. OG got literally jacked in the face. The ref staring right at it. Josh Hart got like clotheslined at half court. No call. I mean, and Towns, I mean, there was that play in the first
Towns
half.
has one, like, I know Towns can be like an oaf sometimes, but like he legitimately gets like an awful whistle.
He does. And the play in the first half that really bothered me, like the stuff when he's driving to the rim, at least I can I understand there. You're sometimes as a ref, you're just like you're going to have a higher threshold maybe. But like the one where he got the rebound, and I think it was either Okongwu or Capella that's on him, and then Trae was trying to steal it from him from behind. He literally got smacked on the arm like fucking 5 times. They didn't call anything. And I just like, I don't know what to say about that, because I'm cool with letting contact go. Like I'm
really all for physicality.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem. I didn't feel like, to me, the issue wasn't like, I wasn't watching the calls the Hawks were getting and thinking like, wow, like I can't believe these soft bullshit calls the Hawks are getting. I was like, for most of them, other than that Trae one where he like jumped back into Mikal, I thought those calls were fine. Like I didn't really have a problem with them. But then you have to call it the other way too. And I don't know, the first half, like I would say the officiating seemed even to me, even if I didn't love all of, like, yeah, I just mentioned the play with Cap, but like that second half was fucking nonsense. I mean, they didn't commit a foul in the fourth quarter until like 5 minutes left in the game or something. It was crazy. Like there was a 3-minute sequence where it honestly felt like they committed about 25 fouls, and it wasn't not just they were committing the fouls. It felt like they were trying to commit fouls on some of these because they were just trying to stop the Knicks. Like, oh my God, OG might get a layup here. Let me just hit him. Like, I don't know. I don't know what you're supposed to do with that. The one on Deuce was, I mean, that was crazy. He's literally getting tackled.
Teams that have this like defensive reputation, and we've seen it countless times. We've seen it with the Magic. We've seen it with other teams. We've seen it with ourselves sometimes. Sometimes, like in the past, our Knicks teams have gotten the benefit of the doubt on certain in certain games. Teams that have this defensive reputation, they're allowed to just get away with more bullshit, like just like that, like straight like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was just defensive reputation is one thing, but when the guy's just hitting, like the OG one where he just gets fucking clocked in the face, I don't know how you don't call that. Like that just has to be an automatic foul. And
yeah, no, for sure.
And if you're not going to call it, then I don't really know what the hell we're doing.
I feel like I said, I feel like teams with the defensive reputation, they're just allowed to get away with bullshit like that, and like the refs will be like they're just playing physical, and it's like they're not, but yeah, but yeah, I mean this game, I mean I see people calling it the worst loss of the year. What do you make of that?
I mean, I'm so sick. Every time the Knicks lose, it feels like there's 15 people telling me it's the worst loss of the year. It was a bad look. It's a bad loss.
Yeah, it's a bad loss.
I'm not gonna like act like it's not, especially because this was not a game I came away thinking like the Knicks didn't compete. Like they competed, they tried, like they were definitely fighting for the game. And sure, did they get worked on the glass? Yeah, I mean, I think it's reductive to say that's just about effort. I think there was a lot more going on there than just effort.
It's the Hawks' length too.
Yeah,
like they have a bunch of 6'10", 6'11" guys out there.
Yeah, their length was a problem. Their athleticism. The Knicks not putting bodies on guys, which, like, sure, if you want to say that's about effort, fine, I'll give you that. But I didn't think the Knicks played with a complete lack of effort. I think that it was. I mean, look, you could have had all of that, and if the Knicks make some of these open fucking threes, like, are we even talking about this?
Yeah, it just feels OG like going 1 for 9 from 3 is just like not ideal at all.
Yeah, and he's just in a bit of a shooting rut right now. His 3-point shot's been kind of MIA for the last week and a half or so. Deuce has not been. Deuce has had. He started picking up this weird habit of like pump faking on threes and then trying to sidestep or dribble in, and it's just like, dude, just take the fucking three. Like, you're good at that shot. I don't know what that's about. Mikal, it just feels like I don't know. It just feels like, I know he's been shooting the ball better lately, but it just feels like he can't
He's
string
not?
together. It just feels like he can't string together like 3 straight, like, really good shooting games here.
Well, we're not at home for that many straight games, apparently.
Yeah, I mean,
his
I don't know.
home road shooting splits are hilarious.
He shot well in Toronto though last game, and you're like, okay, he's coming home. He's got off to a good start in this game too, and you're like, okay, well, that's the thing. I'm gonna pull this up because Retro is, shout out to Retro, who's always in here after losses to let us know how much the Knicks suck. Having multiple worst losses of the year is a horrible sign. No, I mean, I feel
like that's just fans are overreacting to saying every loss is the worst loss of the year.
Yeah, I think if you have multiple worst losses of the year, one, I think every team has that. Like, that's pretty much how that works. Two, like, I will continue to say this. Like, I don't think the Knicks are close to a finished product. I think there's still plenty of stuff to work on. Even today, I'll give you an example. In the first half, there was that pass that Cat threw to Mikal,
who was cutting.
It was cutting. It was a beautiful basket. But if you watch that play, OG is cutting right behind it. Yeah. And it's like, why are you both cutting to the same space? You see this stuff all the time. And yeah, like I just, when I see stuff like that, that to me speaks to, okay, they're not on the same page. Even in the first half, I pointed this out in our game thread. Like, I thought, so in the second half, you noticed this as well. I mean, and the Hawks really made them pay. There were times where both, Mikal and Hart would switch the initial action, and then they would run a second screen, and then both of them would, they would double trade. Now, towards the end of the game, they were definitely trying to do that intentionally to get the ball out of his hands and try and kind of like force the Hawks to find other ways to beat them. But there were times in the first half where they did that, and it was clearly not the strategy. They were just fucking up. They were either supposed to switch that, or somebody's supposed to fight over, or whatever it is. But you have to actually figure that out. And this happens every game now. This is every game you see stuff, and it's honestly, I would say most of the time, it involves two of Mikal, Hart, and Deuce for whatever reason. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know. But those three very specifically in a very specific way, they seem to have the same fuck ups where it's two guys get attracted to the ball and they leave a guy open and then they are scrambling over for the rest of the possession. I don't know who that is about, but I don't think it's about one guy. And look, I understand the officiating was terrible tonight. It can be very frustrating. There need to be times where, can you handle that when there's a dead ball situation? Can you complain about that during a dead ball situation? Not like
he's kind of picked up the Julius Randle gene of that.
It's just annoying. It's like, dude, I understand it's frustrating, but this cannot be like a battle with the refs every time you get a call against you. And look, I guess that's easier to say than to actually execute, because
in the heat of the moment,
in the heat of the moment, I understand. Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting on my couch, right? I'm fucking screaming like, "What the fuck?" So I totally get it. It's just, you've got to find a way to get over it and kind of battle through those moments. But yeah, I mean, look, give the Hawks credit. The Hawks have won now 8 of 7, I think, or 8 of 9, I think. They have 2 wins against the Cavs in that time. I don't know if they beat Boston in that time, but they have beat Boston this year.
They beat Boston earlier, and
they beat Boston without Trey in that game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so, it was like a Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson.
Yeah,
game.
So at some point, look, is it frustrating the Knicks have lost 2 to them, and it feels like both of these games were winnable? Yeah, and have the Knicks?
The Hawks are also not a slouch team.
Yeah, and have we seen, look, we lost to the Pistons, we lost to the Bulls, we lost to the Jazz. Those were 3 very, very fucking annoying losses, because you could have these 2 losses, the Hawks can be 18-9, right? It's frustrating, but 18-7. Really good at math over here. But I think you have to give the Hawks credit just as much as you want to blame the Knicks. The Hawks took that game. I don't think the Knicks gave it to them. I think the Hawks took it, and I talked about this on the pod, I think on Monday with Stacy, where I think where Precious is supposed to help us out. He didn't today, so that's something to keep an eye on.
On the glass,
Is it's not just against on the glass, but against these teams that are super athletic and have size advantages. Like, this is where he needs to give you an advantage, and he did not have a good game today. I think he fucked up defensively several times. You can see like the Cat and Precious lineups are very much a work in progress. They're still figuring out how they want to play those. I'm not sure that a Precious above the break catch and shoot three is the look that we want when we're in that lineup.
I was like, we're really desperate for someone just hit 1-3 at this point. Like, we're just letting Precious let it fly. Like, damn.
But yeah, I like, it was like, it's a frustrating loss.
Yeah, I mean, it's more annoying because, of course, you know, Knicks fans are rightfully pissed about the annoying Hawks, Trae Young, Knicks villain bullshit that the media likes to peddle every fucking time they play each other. And now they just have more ammo, even though Trae Young really didn't do anything that significant in this game. I would say it's like more of like a DeAndre Hunter, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson special. But
I've seen a lot of people complain about the defense. We give 108 points in the modern NBA. That's not really like some.
This was like a rock fight of a game.
This was they beat us up on the glass, and
this is the way we used to beat the Cavs. Like these times.
And we couldn't buy a bucket. We couldn't make a shot. That's the game. Like the game, and look, we can. I already talked about Brunson and Tibbs not adjusting or whatever, but I didn't. This to me was not like, you want to talk about bad defense? Like, yeah, go. The Pistons game that's an example of terrible defense. Go look at we don't need to belabor the point. There's several points.
Yeah,
the Knicks they're not going to win games because they're an elite defense. This is not the path to victory for this team. And if you really want to I bet you their defensive rating is going to go down after today. Like, it probably improved after tonight. Since the first game of the year, after that fucking insane Boston game, the Knicks are like 13th in defensive rating. Is that real? Like, I know that there's this. I think when it goes bad, it goes bad. One, that's part of the modern NBA where like
shooting variance just makes things look way worse than they appear to be.
The Cavs gave up like 130 to these guys or something, right? Like they got smoked. And the Cavs
gave up a lot to these guys.
And the Cavs are the second best defensive team in the league. So that I did not come away from this game thinking, man, the defense overall was terrible. Yeah, were there fuck ups? Sure. I mean, we talked about that. I talked about that in the third quarter. I thought the third quarter was bad. I thought the third quarter was the quarter that cost us defensively. Would it be nice to have 4 quarters of really good defense? Sure. Yeah, I would love that. Everyone would love that. But the path for this team to victory is being efficient offensively. And it's very hard to be efficient offensively if Brunson plays like shit. And if guys
OG's missing threes, or just anybody's missing threes,
and guys are just missing threes, like that's their path to victory, and they didn't have it tonight. And they made it even more difficult on themselves because for the first half they decided like, hey, what if we miss every other free throw? What if we do that? That's
been their game plan for like the last 4 games, basically. It's been let's miss half of our free throws.
I mean, honestly, look, people will. I mean, I'm sure I'll get accused of being fucking just burying my head in the sand. The defense has generally looked better to me since, I don't know, for a while now. And
there's some lapses, but like we said, this is not a finished product.
Well, it's also just I'm not expecting them to be perfect on defense. I never did.
Yeah.
If you told me
this is not the same Knicks team defensively that they've been the last couple of years, where they're more on a string.
Is above average defense, elite offense. They need to figure out how to address these rebounding issues against these athletic teams with a lot of wings. Like Houston has given us a problem already this year. Atlanta, we talked about twice. Utah was another one that gave us a problem. Again, that game was just different and weird for its own reasons. Detroit, last couple games ago, that was another game where they gave us issues with their kind of like athleticism on the wing and size in general. So these are things the Knicks need to figure out. And some of that is personnel related. Some of that is, understanding adjusting your scheme to some extent and being more locked in on some of the stuff. Like, hey, box out. I don't know. There's really not I'm sure that Tibbs is telling them box out, but you got to do it at some point. Yeah. That falls on all of them. Mikal, Hart. I think Hart did not. I mean, there were a couple times he just wasn't boxing out anybody today. If you want to stand there and look at the fucking glass, cool, but you're not going to get a lot of boards. Cat was great. Cat did a great job on the glass. Can't say that much about everybody else.
I feel like Hart tonight was. I don't know if I don't know if like the foul, not getting the foul calls really bothered him and like distracted him from like focusing on um other parts of his game. I mean, he did well scoring wise, at least with leading the team tonight, surprisingly, in scoring, 21 points tonight. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that kind of like took away from him, at least probably in a way, the complaining. But you know, that'll change, hopefully.
Yeah. I pulled up this comment. This is Jordan Bubb posted this. Tom Thibodeau asked if he felt officiating was consistent / if refs let things go. I just looked at who was refereeing. I knew what it was going to be like. He said Jason Goebel was part of crew. Goebel had a phantom foul call in New York Knicks.
Global Stibbs is op forever now.
Houston last year. I mean, I really don't. I'm not. The officiating sucked, but it's not when the Knicks lost the game. And
yeah, of course.
I'm happy Tibbs basically he gave that answer, but he also said, this again, Jordan Post. This is from James Edwards III. Tibbs, missed shots are part of the game. You can supplement defense and rebounding.
Which used to be the Knicks calling card.
Yeah, and then this is another quote. Christian Winfield had this one. Jalen Brunson and Trae Young rolling imaginary dice in the Knicks logo. We should win the game. We don't want him to do that. Don't tell Ohio State that. They should pass legislation to ban Trae Young from telling the Knicks logo.
But yeah, I mean, here we have Larry Israel. Is his total bullshit when Brunson drives the Congo, drops his arm over the top, auto foul, and Taylor tells Brunson you lifted up into it. Replay shows he was wrong.
Yeah, I saw that. That was that entire second half was just
a lot of bullshit.
There's really a lot of it I don't really know what to do. Like if you're just not gonna call fouls, like you want to say like Atlanta played great defense, really good defense on us. I think they did. I thought they played good defense throughout the game. I think it makes it a lot easier when you're just like able to assault guys. I don't know. Like I really don't know what adjustment could have been made aside from again Brunson being more aggressive. To me, it just didn't look like he was even looking to score half the time today. It was a very weird game for him. And the one I just got to say this because this is now multiple games where I've seen this, and it's a team-wide thing. If you're down 9, 10, 11 points with 2 or 3 minutes left,
stop going for twos.
You need threes. You need
stop going for twos.
Stop doing this thing. Like I'm sick of this shit where they're just like, oh well, we'll take the layup. So, like enough. Like enough. You need
drive and kick. Drive and kick.
Or like there are times pull up shoot. Like what, you can't pull up shoot now? Brunson's shooting like 40+% on pull up threes. He took like 2 tonight, didn't make them, and he just gave up on the rest of the game. Like it's just ridiculous. Like this can't be a fucking thing. And even Towns, man. Look, man, there are times I understand he wants to get the basket, and like I'm sure the fucking paint looks wide open to him when he's standing out there, and he's got Clint Capella's fat ass trying to close out on him. But like, dude, you're open. Like you're a 40 fucking.
Yeah, there were a lot of threes tonight where I was just like, man, Cat could have took that and hit that because like
I want to see one game. Anything. Can we get like a fucking
12 threes attempted Karl Anthony Towns game?
Yeah, and I don't know. Again, like the third quarter, I don't understand what the offensive strategy was because I thought in the first half, even though Brunson, I still think could have been more aggressive, they were making it a point to like play through Cat, and I was fine with that. Like it was effective. In the second half, it just felt like maybe I'd have to go back and watch it. I'm sure I'm going to do that. I'm sure definitely going to go back and watch this game. But like maybe Atlanta adjusted in how they were covering stuff, but like. It just felt like they were not clear on what they want to do. And also, like, in general, offensively, I know it's stupid to nitpick the offense when we're got the best offensive rating in basketball. But, like, there are way too many weird possessions where I'm like we had one in the first half where we ran a play for an OG, like, mid-post look. And it was like he took a mid-range jumper with 15 seconds left. And I'm like, that should never be a possession. That just should never be a possession. Should never be a possession. We don't need that. Like, I don't need these plays where, like, it's designed for OG to get downhill and stuff off the dribble. Like, first of all, the guy can't dribble. Second, his finishing through contact is always an adventure, to say the least.
Yes, you don't know where the ball is going.
Yeah, it's like there's just too many of these weird possessions, and some of that, again, is probably they're working shit out, but some of that needs to be, like again, when you feel the game going away from you, I don't need to let me you know what I need? That's what I need. A fucking Cat Jalen Brunson pick and roll. That's what I need. I don't need.
I feel like we didn't see a lot of those tonight, or at least they were like very stagnant. Like they were like trying to like they went into like a pick and roll, but like it went into like Cat trying to like do something at the top of the key, which led to like
a lot of times
nothing, Brunson, especially in the second half.
Well,
or like Brunson was like trying to figure out like, do I want to attack Dyson Daniels? Do I want to switch? Do I want to do I want to hunt the mismatch? It felt like it was very indecisive from him at a lot of times tonight.
And it also felt like when he was coming around the screens, he just wasn't. This is what I'm saying. Like he came off of screens. And again, Dyson Daniels is a great defender. He deserves all the credit in the world for how he defended today and how he's defended all year, quite frankly. But like, you can't come off the screen and just not really like look threatening at all. Like he just coming off the screens, and there were times where he would just kind of drag out to his
meandering and stuff like that.
Swing it back to Cat, or like he would dribble in a little bit and then get to the elbow and then like do that thing where he picks up and then he starts pivoting 15 times where he kicks it out to somebody. It's like, dude, like it was just a fucking weird game. He has to be way better than that. And we've seen, obviously, I mean, you're gonna have weird games like that at any point, but it was bad. I don't know what the hell was going on with him today. Yeah, I agree with this. Larry as well says Brunson can't choose to be passive offensively and on the ball. I agree. And he like the other one, the one actually, I can't believe I forgot this. The one that actually drove me fucking bananas was it was a broken possession, late clock. I think Cat had the ball over on the wing. Brunson kind of like wriggles free in the corner. He gets the ball. There's like maybe 2 seconds left in the shot clock. Daniels closed out to him. He could have gotten the shot off. I'm 100% sure he could have gotten the shot off. He pump fakes, sidesteps, then tries to get the shot off. Daniels blocks it, and then he doesn't, then it's a shot clock violation. He just has to, like, his catch and shoot numbers are insane. And not just this year, like, for his fucking career, they're insane. Shoot the fucking ball, man. Shoot the ball. Like, him, Cat, and Deuce, those three very specifically. Every fucking
They're doing
time,
weird shit with the ball in their hands when they get it.
Did you read that article the other day about how, like, the Magic fine guys for every time they fuck up defensively or something?
No, I didn't, but that's interesting.
Yeah, they fine guys on. Look, I understand you can probably do that with a young team and not so much with a veteran team. I don't care what it is. Maybe Tim's got to be like, anytime you three pump fake on a catch and shoot three, I get to punch you in the dick after the game. Like, I don't know what it is. Whatever he's got to incentivize these guys with. Those three, every fucking time they pump fake, I want to fucking punch. I want to like literally drill a fucking hole through my dick. This is how fucking annoyed I am. It's like the most painful fucking thing in the entire world. Karl-Anthony Towns, you are like you're shooting 45% from three. You're 7 fucking feet tall. Nobody can block your shot. Clint Capella, but I did not realize how fat Clint Capella got, by the way. You see his face? Dude, that is crazy. That's crazy, man.
That Atlanta food, man, is good.
Yeah, that's crazy. I can't believe they still got him starting over Okongwu. But like
politics.
I'm just like, dude, just shoot the three. Like he's not gonna close out to you, man. He can.
Like I understand Cat wanting to like get to the basket and stuff like that, and like he's been really good at that too. But like you gotta space the floor, you gotta stretch out the defense, you gotta hit threes.
And like also like with these screens that they're setting, like can we fucking set the screen higher? Like why are we setting the screen like right there at the arc? Like just set it like 5 feet beyond that. Look at some of these possessions where they're setting screens for Trey, right? They're setting screens, bringing the ball.
He's got a full runway to the paint.
Like, why are you keeping it so tight? And now your whole game is like you're playing in these like a condensed
2000 spacing.
It was bananas. Like I don't know. I get so frustrated watching it because you're not even really leveraging Cat, who has like range probably up to like 28, 29 feet type. Like he's got that type of range. You're not even fully leveraging that. It just, to me, like, and I've thought this all year, like as good as the Knicks offense is, it still to me does not feel like
it's not being optimized to its full potential.
I don't think they're getting everything out of it that they can. And when you play some of these matchups, like Atlanta, weirdly, they're not even that great of a defensive team, but they do things that give the Knicks issues, their ability to switch across positions, their size, athleticism, length, to be able to keep repeating it. So I get that, but it's against those type of opponents, the ones that give you trouble, that you do need to really optimize your advantages. And they didn't do that today. And, then when you're not optimizing your advantages, then Brunson plays poorly and OG can't make a three and all these type of things happen. Yeah, you're going to lose the game. Like you at least put it in doubt. And again, I think Atlanta, they deserve credit for winning that game. They deserve credit for it. But the Knicks played like they did not play. I thought they played a good first half. The second half stuff was garbage.
And even in the first half when they were playing well, it felt like there was still like meat on the bone left for them
Yeah,
to
well,
because
free throws.
free throws, there was a lot of sloppy turnovers that led to the Hawks getting easier points to cut the lead back down. Like
Every
it felt like
time
the Knicks
OG
could have advanced the lead to 15 tops.
every
Maybe
OG like passing situation is a real adventure. Like that turnover he had at the end of the first half on the break, where he was like trying to dump it off the heart, and I was just like, what if you just dunk? I don't
or
think
take it up, just take it up strong and
yeah,
wait for Hart to maybe get the rebound if you miss.
yeah. I was like, I don't really know if Captain No Handles needs to be
Captain No Handles.
dropping the ball, trying some dump off pass here. Yeah, he was weird. Hart had some interesting possessions in transition today,
as he always does.
Yeah, the one where he just ran into Bogdanovich. I know he was bitching about that as a foul. I was fine with that as a no call. I'm like, you tried your step through thing, and Bogdanovich just stood his ground. Like I was fine with that as a no call. Unlike the clothesline in the second half, where I have no clue how you didn't call that. That was bananas. And yeah, look, OG. Yeah, I mean he fucked up a lot. I mean he didn't make threes. He had what 5 dunks or something in this game.
Yeah.
When he's getting the chance around the rim, he's fine. But his 3-point shooting, he's got to. I mean, they need him to get that together. They need McCall obviously to find some consistency, and they need Brunson and Cat consistently. I just need these guys to take more. I don't know what else to say.
Volume.
Why is campaign? Why is campaign the most willing gunner on the team now? All of a sudden,
campaign's always been the most willing gunner on every team. But he's kind of the barometer of if you can tell the Knicks are gonna win or not too. Because he came in and the energy did not shift. If he comes in and the energy shifts, especially where he's being disruptive defensively, he's able to get shit working for the Knicks in transition, where he's able to do some pull-up threes or whatever it may be and stuff like that. And that just did not happen with campaign. I was like, yeah, we lost tonight. Whenever campaign comes in and we start fucking shit up, that's when you know you're gonna win. But tonight was just not that night.
Yeah, it was very frustrating. One thing I will say against these teams that switch like this, and I know that Tibbs has, and I get it. Tonight, you got beat up on the glass. I get why you probably don't want to risk it, but against these teams that switch a lot, I do think there's value in. I wouldn't hate seeing Brunson and Payne get a little bit more time together, because you need somebody other than Brunson
who's going to be a pull-up threat.
Well, not just a pull-up threat, but that can just beat guys off the bounce and get into the paint. They didn't have that today. You saw that. You saw it throughout the second half. It got exacerbated because even when they did get open threes, they weren't cashing them in, and then guys started kind of second guessing and record scratching possessions and stuff. But I would not hate seeing that a little bit.
It just depends on who's the personnel around them.
Yeah, and I think maybe you want to try that out. If you want to try that out against maybe a game with some stakes isn't the time you want to try that out. So I get that, but I would definitely not mind seeing that at some other point for sure.
Howard Bunces, he says, "Can we get a bench? No scoring off the bench, and pressures was awful tonight." Is that Landry Shamit's music? I hear.
Who'll get up threes? Landry Shamit.
Yeah, he definitely will. He's not afraid. That's one thing for sure. Phoenix fans will let you know.
Yeah, I mean, they love to let you know that. Yeah, I mean, they need another piece off the bench, but this is why I will continue to just say the Knicks are not a championship team right now. I'm not exactly breaking news here. I don't think they're a championship team right now. I don't think the numbers bear out that they're a championship team right now. I think they're really good, and I think they have stretches where they look downright dominant, and then they have stretches where they look like they're short on depth and short on guys that can give them value. And tonight was one example of that. But you don't need to be a championship team on December 11th.
No,
I don't think Dallas was a Western Conference Finals winning team on December 11th last year.
No,
can the Knicks pull off the type of transactions that Dallas was able to shift momentum towards them and kind of change their trajectory? maybe.
Take some
If
real
you
finagling.
and I will totally respect anybody that is of the opinion like, well, that's what McCall was supposed to be, right? That's why you make these moves. They should have that ceiling already. I totally get that, and I think that's a fair criticism. But I will continue to just give this front office the benefit of the doubt when it comes to, we know that they're not just going to sit around. Like, now maybe a trade doesn't materialize. We already got the report today that it's unlikely Mitchell Robinson will get on the floor until the end of January or something. So that, limits his value as a potential trade chip down the line. But we'll see. They've pulled out, rabbits out of the hat before. Let's see what they have.
I wonder what his good news was, since it's apparently not him playing.
Oh, he probably got his purple AK-47 and whatever the fuck he wanted, and like Trump
some of his
Miller,
stuff off
and his Trump Miller Lite shirt. That was probably the good news.
Oh man, Mitchell Robinson, funny guy. Let's see what else we got here. I saw comments that I wanted to pull up, but yeah, okay. Okay, for 20, he asks, what do you make of Daniels clamping Brunson second game in a row? Did we see this when he played when we played NOLA the last 2 years? I think the thing with this is, like, in NOLA, he was either hurt or like he wasn't getting consistent playing time, which kind of makes like his pop off on the Hawks a little bit more out there, I guess you can say. Like, it's more prominent what he's doing on the Hawks, and like, I mean, he's like a legitimate, I guess, like you can say, DPOY candidate. Daniels is. I mean, he's leading the league in steals with like 3.2 steals per game. He was Defensive Player of the Month last month.
If you go back to the first game we played against New Orleans at the start of, was it last year? I think it was last year. Played them in New Orleans. It's a pretty bad game. It was the third game of the year, I think. And the Knicks got, I think it was a pretty ugly game. I'm going to guess. I'm going to look this up. I'm going to guess the score of that game was 108-97 or something like that.
I don't remember this game, but my memory fails me.
And Daniels was in the rotation during that stretch, and it was terrible. The final score of that game was, let's see how close I was, 96-87. Wow, much worse than I anticipated. But Brunson had a bad game. He had a bad game. Daniels was on him a bunch in that game. Brunson was 4 of 14 from the field. But this might be a guy who he has not figured out yet. And, if we see this team, we're going to see them again in the regular season at least once, I'm assuming. Maybe twice. I don't know what the schedule has in store for us. But if you see them in the playoffs, it's definitely something to keep an eye on, because as we saw today, like, they don't have that depth of, like, they don't have an Emmanuel Quickley coming off the bench that can kind of give them microwave offense, right? And that's something that we talked about this after the trade was made for OG. We're like, we thought that was a problem, which is why, it was when they got Bogdanovich and Burks, you were like, okay, maybe this can help. Obviously, Burks, he had injury issues. Bogdanovich took a while for him to get going, and then he got hurt once he got going in the playoffs. That was frustrating. But this is like, they don't have firepower off the bench.
No.
And then you compare that to a team like Atlanta, say whatever you want about them. Bogdanovich comes off the bench, and that's a guy that can put up like 18, 19, 20 points. And he didn't even have a particularly great game today. But they have
him and Hunter coming off the bench.
Yeah, the Hunter thing is so weird. But they said multiple guys coming off the bench that can at least score. And Deuce, to me, those last couple of weeks, he's had a really weird offensive stretch where he looks completely unsure of himself when he does.
He doesn't look as confident as he did starting the season, pulling up from three, especially.
Well, he's like he constantly, we already talked about the weird, pump fake sidestep into a three instead of just taking the first look. Then when he puts the ball on the deck, he's like getting into the paint, but it doesn't look like he has any plan for exactly what he's trying to do once he gets inside the arc. But that is a problem. And then Payne, I don't know, he has his moments, but I mean, I don't really want Cam Payne to be like hunting for buckets, like that's really not what I want him to do. I have no problem with him pulling the trigger on catch and shoot threes. But yeah, it's just it's frustrating. It's frustrating, and I do think that there's something to the idea of like it's especially frustrating because the Knicks made their biggest push the chips in type of moves, and on top of that, like and because of that, it's hard not to view everything through the lens of like
Oh my
championship.
God, we gave up
Yeah.
everything for this guy.
Well,
It's championship or bust.
Yeah, like championship. I get that, and I don't know. It's just like it's a hard thing because I totally understand that, but then I also am of the view that like I still expect them to get better. I would be really surprised if this team isn't consistently better in like
January,
January
February.
than they are now. That doesn't change how frustrating it is in the moment, though. I think that's understandable. And
I think as fans, it's normal for us to like process it in this
and
way. Just don't want to be too extreme with the game by game stuff because it's like
and it does feel like there is this. I think the frustration is that there's this like lack of consistency, right? It's like like they kind of get on this hot run, right? They smoke Orlando, they smoke the Pelicans, whatever, and you're like, all right, they caught the rhythm, like now we're going, and then they come out and basically no show for about 3 quarters on defense against Detroit, lose that game. Then you beat the Raptors. That game was ugly. I didn't really have a problem with it, to be honest. I think that was
I think it's good to win ugly games.
Yeah, and I just thought it was a weird game. And Toronto's been weird all year. They've been competitive against.
They went to overtime with Boston with RJ Barrett and Jakob Poeltl pick and rolls.
They almost pulled off like a 25-point comeback against OKC last week too. Like it was pretty. They've been weird and competitive, especially at home. But like, and then you come back tonight, and it's like the first half. I think we all felt this. Right at halftime, you're up 7, but you're like, man,
it doesn't feel safe enough.
This should have been like 13, 14 at least. So it's not quite where it is. And then you have that entire third quarter where it's like, what was the final score at the end of the third quarter? 81-72?
Yeah, it was a 34-18.
34-18 quarter, and then I will say this, and this is a fair criticism of this team so far. I think there's one thing that is 100% a fact right now with this team, and it makes sense because they're just a very middling defensive team by most metrics. When they get that, they are not built to play from behind. They are not built to play from behind.
Nope, not at all.
They cannot stack the stops, and then it piles on the pressure offensively because it feels like every possession you have to go down and score. Because if you don't, because you're not going to get
and you can see
defensively
the tentativeness in their play once they're down. Like, especially to start the fourth quarter tonight, you can see the tentativeness in their play, and like it makes them miss their shots even more than like they were missing them previously. It's like, man, we have to make this bucket. Like during that stretch where they were missed like 11 straight like threes, you could see it in like their body language. Like they just like knew how bad it was that they were not making the threes. So there was that. But yeah, I mean, I think that, this team, they have to bludgeon teams from the start of the game. Or like if the game's close, they have to start pulling away as soon as they can. They can't really play from behind. So yeah,
I don't know what happened there. I think if you were to compare it to a team they feel really similar to, and this is not going to make anybody happy, they feel a lot like that Timberwolves 2022-23 team right after they did the Gobert trade. If you go look at that team, like they finished 47-35, right? They lose in the first round to the Nuggets. That series was a 5-game series, but it was really competitive.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, and
that's what really put like Anthony Edwards and them on the map at that point.
Yeah. But like if you look at you can go through and look at their game log that year. They have all these like weird losses that year. And it was a team that was like, and it's funny, right? Because we have Towns too, but it really does feel like a team that was like spent a lot of the year, maybe like 2/3 of the year, maybe longer than that, just kind of like searching for like what can we do, like consistency, identity, all those type of things. And like, I don't know, like the Knicks have undergone a really major identity shift, and that is going to lead to like we're not used to them losing the way they lost today. We're not used to them. Like the one thing they did they've done really well for the last 2 years is they basically beat every team that they're supposed to beat. That was like they took care of business against teams they were supposed to beat. And this year they've dropped multiple games against teams that you're like they're supposed
And they
to
also
win.
used to like gut out wins against teams that they had no business beating sometimes in certain games. Like certain games they were just like the way that they were like they beat a team like in like 99 out of 100 times they probably don't beat that team that way.
Yeah. And this year they have not they just don't feel like they're I mean, it's not the same. It's obviously not the same team. We know that. But it doesn't it feels like they're still like
trying to find their identity.
Not yet. And also just like finding like okay, when your plan A isn't working, right? Your plan A is not working. What are we doing? How do we adjust, right? What pivots do we have? It still doesn't feel like they've developed those pivots yet. Like I know Mikal Bridges frustrates a lot of people. What I would also say is it does feel like they're not he doesn't get many opportunities on the ball, and that's weird to me because that was a thing that was like part of the sell of getting him, right? Where it's like, okay, look, he's clearly not number one option, way, completely mismatched as we saw in Brooklyn when asked to do that. But now if he's your like third option and presumably your second guy that can kind of like ostensibly run a pick and roll in the half court in that starting lineup, that should help things. And it just doesn't feel like they've leaned into that much. Some of that has to do for sure with like Mikal's own individual struggles, but I wonder, to me, it feels like maybe there's a little bit of, it's tied together almost where it's like he's struggling. So you're not trusting him with some of those opportunities, maybe that I think most of us would have envisioned he got, but then because he's not getting those opportunities, it's harder for him to maybe get into a rhythm. Like, I don't know. It's weird for him. And he's probably the biggest kind of like example of what we're talking about on this team where it just feels like he can't quite string together. Like I'm still waiting for like a 2-week stretch of just like, this is consistently like,
There's a baseline. There's like a high floor baseline of like what Mikal's play should be.
What's your floor? Like what's your baseline floor here? And it just feels like there's really good games and then there's bad games and then there's okay games. And yeah, you don't have that consistency yet with him.
It's like there's such a wide range. It's like you have the Pelicans game and you have the Raptors game, and then you have games like his game against the Hornets on the road on Black Friday, like the lowest of lows. Like it's just so bizarre though how high his highs can be and how low his lows can be. But yeah, there's some other comments here. Aaron H says the games like this make him realize how much we miss Mitch. Sucks that his timelines to return has been pushed back. We need to figure out how to be better on the glass. And I think that Precious definitely factors into that. Do you think that Tibbs tried to put Sims in tonight just because he realized how bad we're getting killed on the glass? And he was like, let me try to get something going on the glass here.
No, I mean, that's what it was. Precious was not doing a good job defensively. And then, and then he was like, all right, we need to buy some minutes before Cat's out here and get some defensive rebounds. And I mean, look, he's just searching there. I don't really mind that. You're trying to find something. And he went with Sims and it didn't work. I mean, not that it also wasn't like a big failure. I think they basically played neutral during that time. But yeah, that was a desperation move, right? It was like Precious is not doing it. Precious also is probably still on a minutes limit. How many minutes did he play today? 14 or something?
He's been playing around like roughly around like 27 minutes or so since he's came back. So
yeah. So I didn't I thought Tibbs got destroyed in the third quarter by the coke addict Quinn Snyder. But
dude, that guy looks fucking insane.
His
guy's wearing like red frames.
Yeah, that shit is nuts.
It's like, dude, who's your plug?
I've been pretty tame on the criticism of Tibbs this year. I thought he coached a terrible third quarter. He did not adjust at any point. I didn't understand the Deuce and Mikal thing where it's like the value
they should be on the other person that they were on. They should have switched assignments.
Yeah. And it's like Yeah, it was just the lack of adjustment was just bizarre. Because to me, the value of having you've got like 4 to whatever degrees good perimeter defenders. And I know Mikal struggled this year defensively, but again, I thought in the first half he played well, and then the second half he struggles. It's like, okay, that happens.
Adjust.
Trae Young's a talented offensive player. Like
And he adjusted.
Think of it this way: if Brunson figured out Dyson Daniels, I don't think any of us would. The takeaway would be like Dyson Daniels sucks on defense. We'd been like, well, of course Brunson figured it out and he got going. And then if they just left Daniels on Brunson at that point, you'd be like, well, that's stupid. Thank you for that. Like in this situation, Trae got going. It's okay to throw a different look at him. And instead of that, it was just keep putting Mikal on him. I didn't understand that. I thought that was really bad. And then their offensive like thought process in the third quarter was weird. Yeah, like I don't know. It's the Hawks thing is just it was just a weird game. It was a weird game, and I did not like
the Hawks are a weird team. And I said this the last couple post games in preparation for this game. I was like, man, the Hawks, they're a weird team. Like they've lost to some teams that they probably shouldn't have based on the teams that they've beaten. They beat the Cavs twice, like we said. They've beaten the Celtics. Like they've played really well against like some of the top teams in this league. And then, you know, this game ended up being a rock fight, but I mean, they've been rolling lately, so got to give it to them.
Yeah, they played well. That's about all I can really say about that.
Jordan Bub says, so when do you think this roller coaster ride ends for Knicks? Where we can know what this team is consistently?
I mean, I don't know, man. Strap in. I think they figured out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, but there's still plenty of other things to figure out. Like the Mikal thing to me offensively, I don't think they've. It doesn't even really feel like they've scratched the surface on what you presumably bought him in potentially to do. I mean, there are times where it feels like OG's the third option.
Yeah, like OG's the third option or Hart's the third option, and it feels like Mikal's like really just like a spectator in like the corners a lot.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I don't love that. But again, like we said, it's I can understand it too, because if you're Tibbs and you're like Mikal's struggling,
why the hell would I put him on ball?
Yeah, it's one of those chicken or egg things at times. So I don't know. I'm not really a person. I've said this. I've been on the record with this. I'm not a schedule person. I don't like look at the schedule in advance and think like, oh, this is when we should. Yeah, this is the stretch where they're gonna figure it out. Like, I don't know where they're gonna figure it out.
There is a stretch in January though that I have looked at since the beginning when I did when I did the schedule stream. When we first got the schedule, I did a stream for it. There was a stretch that I predicted, I think in January, where the Knicks get like a pretty favorable schedule in terms of like home games, and like the only road games in that stretch are like Philly and Brooklyn, really. And it's like basically like a 10 or 12 game home stretch if you count those road games as home games, because like they're basically like second homes for the Knicks at this point. But I predicted at that point from there in the beginning of like even before the Cat trade at that point too, right? Like
yeah,
we got the schedule before the Cat trade. So yeah, even before the Cat trade, I was like, I feel like that's where the Knicks will start to get rolling. Another January Knicks streak possibly. But hey, we'll see if that continues. I mean, the Knicks still have time to really gel and whatnot. Shamit's starting to work with Westchester team. That's another guy that can start putting up some threes for us, hopefully, if he recovers in time. But yeah, I mean, I'm still holding out hope for that like January stretch of games for them to really put shit together.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
The Warriors are hilarious.
I don't know what to say. I actually agree with this. This is what Larry said this, or Israel said this. Mikal feels like he's just running around cutting like OG did when he arrived. That's what it feels like to me too. It doesn't feel like there's an attempt being
set plan.
There's just not like okay. So if you want to say Mikal is too mid-range reliant, I totally agree with that. I also think in the last few games he has done a better job of The cutting is better. Like he's getting shots at the rim. He's not cutting just to like pull up in the mid range. I think he's also had some like promising drives, where he catches it on the move and he's able to get to the rim and finish.
Had
And
a
he's a
layup
good
to that.
finisher. He's a good finisher, actually. He's probably shooting like 70+% at the rim.
He
But
just
like
doesn't do it
that,
often.
that to me is not leveraging
His
the player
strengths.
you got. And it also means that it leads to like a game like today where, okay, Brunson's struggling, right? And Dyson Daniels doing a really good job on him. Can you use Mikal to get Brunson off the ball and maybe allow him to kind of find space that way? And I don't know. It was weird. And then again, like I also we were just not putting Trey into actions, which will always be fucking weird to me. Like I'll just never understand it. I really will never get it. And it's bizarre. I don't know. If there's the main criticism, if there's one to have of Tibbs so far this season, I mean the minutes are the one that people always bring up. But the weird, like I just don't. You can be critical of Mikal defensively, and I think that's totally fair. And you can talk about not attacking the rim and getting free throws and all that shit. And I think all of that is fair. But I also think it's not. You can't have traded all these things for this guy, and then
be like
really not try.
Stick in the corner, man.
Yeah, like you're not trying to leverage any of it. I don't know. It doesn't feel like that's been happening there. And
they use him like a guy like they acquired for like a second round pick or something.
They use their like almost kind of like giving him the priority of what they did to like Josh Hart. They're like, oh well, we traded Cam Reddish and protected first for this guy. And you're like, oh okay, that's cool.
Be a utility man.
Yeah, and I don't know. It just needs to be more prevalent. And then it is. I will say this. This is like totally feelings stuff. But obviously Brunson and Cat seem to have a good relationship. I think there's a lot of good stuff happening with various pieces on the team. I still don't feel like Brunson. It doesn't feel like Mikal and Brunson necessarily have a great connection. Like it doesn't feel like they're finding each other that often, which is a little weird and maybe indicative of like an adjustment period going on there. I find that weird.
Mm-hmm.
And then I find like there was a drive today. It was in the fourth quarter. Cat drove. He blew by Capella. There was like 3 Hawks that crashed on him. He had the opportunity. Like he had Deuce absolutely wide open top of the key. Like fucking couldn't be more open than he was. Doesn't even look in his direction. Drives in. Might have gotten fouled on the drive. Let's even say he did get fouled on the drive. Well, they weren't calling anything anyway, so I don't think you got to adjust to it. But like he misses a shot, and I'm just like, and I hate to get on Cat because I think he's been really fucking good. He's the Knicks' best player tonight by far, and he's been a good passer obviously for his position. But there's stuff like that where I see him like feels like maybe some of these guys aren't totally on the same page with each other. Josh Hart has his own process on fast breaks, which I'm never quite certain of what's going to happen there, but you just kind of trust it.
I don't think he's quite certain until he gets to the basket.
Yeah. And I will, this is also a good point. This from Larry. Also, they used Bogey more. It did feel like they used Bogey more. I mean, I think the stuff that really is weird, forget when he's on the floor.
Yeah, Bogey was like initiating like plays and shit like that when he was here. It's like weird.
The stuff that's weird is like, forget when he's on the floor with Brunson and Cat, at least you're kind of sympathetic to like, all right, you can kind of get lost in the shuffle there, and it makes a little sense. Why, when he's on the floor with Payne and Deuce, does he not get like more opportunities to initiate offense? That's when you want him to have those opportunities, and it just doesn't really ever materialize like that.
No.
I don't know. It's a weird thing. I think they definitely gotta find that, because they need that. And especially on nights like tonight, you can see why they would need somebody else, right? Because one of your top 2 guys doesn't have it going, and then it's rough.
Yeah, they got to figure out the offensive hierarchy right there. So the next game is when? That is Sunday now? Like it's the Magic?
Is that? I don't know. I don't know the schedule at all.
I think it's Sunday versus the Magic. That's the next game. I think it's a consolation game or something like that, but it's like baked into the schedule. Yes, Larry is confirming it is Sunday. So yeah, Sunday at 6, I believe. Interesting time. We play the Magic. The Magic are their team that we should beat. But I mean, granted, we just saw how they played against Milwaukee, almost beat them in that game. Jalen Suggs went off. Predictions for this game, Schwinn.
Knicks will win. They'll probably. Is this game in Orlando or is it home?
I think it's at MSG.
Yeah, I think the Knicks win. And I think they win pretty big, actually.
Someone correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think it's in MSG.
My feeling is they're going to win, and they're going to win big. I think they match up.
Oh, it's in Orlando.
That's fine. Doesn't really matter. It's to me, this is like I think they match up well with Orlando. Orlando's wing size is, to me, they're not like, they have size, but they're not super athletic. They're not a really athletic team. They're less athletic now, obviously, without Franz and Paolo. I don't give a fuck about Tristan Da Silva and like these other fucking Jet Howard, disgrace to the University of Michigan. I don't.
Damn, what did he do?
I watched him like 2 games of Michigan. I was like, so this guy just doesn't rebound. I'm out. Like I'm good. Yeah, I think this is a good matchup for the Knicks. I think they win big.
All right.
I'll bring this up. Jason Arvalo puts this. Definitely thought McCall would be handling the ball more when he was playing with the bench. Thought that's why we were bringing him in. I agree. This is the weirdest. It is the weirdest thing to me that he just does not seem to be getting those. And I'll throw this out there. You want to. This is not to justify it because it would not justify it. There are obviously times we've seen we've seen him not work as hard defensively as you'd like to see. Sometimes, like, we know this happens not just with players all around the league. If they don't feel like they're getting the offensive touches and usage that they deserve, that can impact other areas of their game.
We've seen it with one individual
Canadian.
who wore
certain Canadian.
We've seen it with a lot of people.
And a certain number 30.
We saw it with number 30. We saw it with
30. Big 30.
We saw it with number 30. We saw it with the Canadian we just played against. They both let their offense impact their defense. McCall, do not be that person, please. It's not who you want to be in New York. They were much maligned for reasons.
Yeah, this is, and that's a Tibbs thing. The McCall, like where he's just kind of like floating around, playing on the periphery. That is a Tibbs thing that he needs to figure out. That's really not on anybody else. Like Brunson can't like design plays in the middle of the game. Like, hey, dude, we're gonna like get you going.
It's not NBA 2K. You can't just press a button and just like a play just forms out of nowhere.
Yeah, that's on Tibbs. He's got to figure that out.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll end things here. Shout out to everyone that's tuned in. Make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe. Check out all links in the description. We got links to the site, merch, Patreon, Twitter, and Instagram. We're also on Blue Sky as well, so follow us there as well. We'll be back after the game on Sunday, so the Knicks get quite some time off. And yeah, catch you guys then. Everyone, enjoy the rest of your week. Peace.